Before you click off the video because you realise this is not Pyrocynical speaking and you were fooled to believe so, I want to ask you a question. What game do you think I'm talking about when I say the worst game you've probably played? Maybe you think of a game like Minecraft, a game that's gotten very stale over the years and almost everyone has played it at least once. Or maybe a game like Overwatch 2, a game full of broken promises, terrible bouncing, and the only redeeming fact is how good the animations are. Maybe some weebs in the audience say Jujutsu Kaisen Curse Clash because it's Jujutsu Kaisen Curse Clash. League of Legends, Doom 3, Sonic Forces, FNAF Security Breach. Well, it's none of these games. It's actually a game that's had a staggering player base for years that's slowly declining and coming out with change after change that makes the community drift apart. That game being Dead by Daylight. Quick disclaimer. 2 in fact. 1. This video might feel scattered at times, and that's because there is a lot to talk about. So I will be timestamping sections, so everything makes a bit more sense. 2nd disclaimer. Subscribe, please. I've been inactive for like 2 fucking years, and I've made 7 odd scripts, and I want to start actually uploading again. So if you want to see more, subscribe, like, and comment, all that shit, and enjoy my autistic ramblings. I'll get it out of the way first. I adore this game. I started playing in January of 2024 and fell in love almost instantly. It was such a unique game with how things played out. It was very simple and easy to understand, but there was a lot of nuance and strategy with how you had to play. It's still my main game and my most played game on Steam, even beating fucking Cookie Clicker. Playing as a survivor is incredibly fun. Mostly. And the wide variety of playstyles and killers you can play against or play as makes the game feel fresh and unique. Okay, I've explained why I like the game in short, but before I get to the complaining part of the video, there's a lot you need to know about the game before I can critique it properly. So I will do a very basic rundown of mechanics and how the game works. Then I will explain a bit more in detail why I like this game. This might take a while. Survivors. There are 4 survivors on a team. The survivors' goal are to complete 5 generators dotted across the map. In total, there are 7 generators to choose from, each with various different locations. Once you have powered 5 of these generators, there will be 2 doors around the map that you can start opening. Once opened, you can escape. Alternatively, if you're the last survivor in the trial, a hatch will spawn randomly in the map. You can escape through, but be careful because the killer can close the hatch. Once the doors are open or hatch is closed, the endgame collapse happens. A 3-minute timer before the game just kills you. Meanwhile, there is a killer that wants you dead. You can do the boring thing of hiding from the killer so you don't have to worry about being killed, or you can purposefully make yourself known to the killer and run around the area taking them on a journey as your team completes the generators in peace. Killers, you're mean and evil. Mostly. You are there to kill the survivors with whatever means you have. After hitting a survivor twice, they are knocked to the ground. Pick them up and casually hang them by stabbing a hook through their fucking chest. Do this 3 times per survivor and they will be sacrificed. You can kick the generators to hinder survivors' progress towards their goal, and after hitting a survivor, you can make multiple survivors waste time healing instead of doing generators. Okay, so that's the basic mechanics, so let's get into perks, items, and add-ons. I'm gonna be here all day, aren't I? Perks. Each side has 4 perks to aid them in their tasks. Survivors' perks can range from ones that help you hide from the killer completely, such as Distortion, Calm Spirit, Lucky Break, Quick and Quiet, to ones that speed up generators like Hyper Focus, Deja Vu, and Prove Thyself, to perks that exist, like No Mither and Objective Obsession, or even ones that help you escape the killer like Sprint Burst, Life, and Overcome. Killers have perks that also help with their goals, such as gem regression perks like Call of Brine, Pop Goes the Weasel, and Surge, to perks that help find survivors like Lethal Pursuer, Darkness Revealed, and Barbecue and Chili. These perks can completely change the style of your match, how you interact with the map or killer, and how you will be viewed by the community. There's many nuances to the perks and many builds you can run that are all unique and interesting. Perks are something I'm going to bring up a lot in this video, as they are more or less the main issue people have with the game. And there's a lot to talk about, so stay tuned for that. I'll go a bit more in depth on perks, more specifically perk combinations later, but they'll be mentioned every now and then. Items. Items can be brought by survivors to aid them. There are 5 different items with rarities you can bring: the flashlight, the toolbox, the medkit, the map, and the key. Flashlights are used to piss off the killer. Blind the killer. They are meant to be used as a method to hide from the killer as they walk into a fucking wall like a dumbass. Toolboxes are used for 2 things. 1, speeding up generator progress, or 2, sabotaging hooks. Sabotaging hooks makes the hook disappear for a short period of time. This can be used to waste the killer's time and potentially drop the survivor. Poor bastard. Medkits are used to heal faster. That's it. They can also help self-heal, because without one you need a teammate to heal you. The map is used for tracking things, that be generators, survivors, totems, I'll explain totems later, and more. Mostly people don't bring maps though, as a lot of their functions are already in perks, like tracking generators, use Deja Vu, and you get to see them all the time. Lastly, keys. They are used to open the hatch when it's closed. That's it. Add-ons. They can be used by survivors to buff their items. They can also be used by killers to buff their power, nerf their power, or change it how it works completely. For survivors, most add-ons are just the same. Longer use, faster use, the fuck you button, but some are unique, especially keys. Key add-ons are very varied and interesting. You got an add-on that instead of losing the key when used, it uses up the add-on. You want to see where the killer is? Try Blood Amber, showing you where the killer is within 36 meters. You want to see where your teammates are? Try Eroded or Gold Token. They let you see your teammates within a 24 to 48 meter radius. On the killer side of things, your add-ons are much cooler. Let's take a killer called the Wraith, for example. He can go invisible at any time, making it easy to sneak up on survivors. However, he dingle-dongles a bell every time he goes in and out invisibility, making it easier to tell if he's nearby. Well, there's the Coxcomb Clapper add-on, which makes the bell completely silent and has a funny name. Or how about Blink White, where you can go invisible faster, or Shadow Dance Blood, where you vault and break things faster whilst invisible. There's a lot of variations with this, and it also allows for both sides to play around the matchup of add-ons and perks and maps. There's a lot to this game, I know, just stick with me. Okay, now I've explained every mechanic and every little thing to a basic degree. There's more nuance to these things, but I'll explain them a lot more when I get to the complaining section, or more likely the I love this game and I will kiss its ass section. So yeah, I'm about to kiss this game's ass hard. I love this game a lot. Like I said, it's my most played game on Steam with nearly 1,000 hours on it. Now, there's going to be two reactions to my playtime. Either, holy shit, you're really good, or only 1,000. I hope it's your good, my ego needs it. Anyways, it was a great game for me and my friends to play casually. Most of us are brand new to the game, minus the experienced friend guiding us from success at every trial. I cannot thank this friend enough. Without their help, I probably would have dropped the game very quickly. With every match, I could feel my understanding growing and growing, and my love for the game doing the same. Entering the character select for the first time and seeing all the survivors kind of gave me a goal to do at the start, unlocking them all, and this motivation led me to continue playing even by myself. At the start, I only had 4 survivors unlocked, like everyone did, and my choice was Dwight. Was it because I liked his lore? Did I like his voice actor? No. With a specific costume, he looked like my college teacher, so I played as him. Game after game, I learned how the game worked and how you're supposed to play the game as a survivor. When you first get on the game, you're most likely going to be hiding from the killer, not wanting to engage and just holding W anytime they enter your field of vision, no matter how far away they are. This is called bad etiquette, and what you should do is gauge roughly where the killer is compared to you, that be visually or through the terror radius intensity, the music that plays when they're close. You then run at the right time so you can begin looping. What's looping, you may ask? Why, you don't have looping over in your first-person shooters?
No.
Oh, it's pretty simple. When running around with the killer, there's locations with vault points and pallets. Pallets can be used to stun the killer or make distance while the killer breaks it. And vaults are areas you can get through quickly while the killers have to slowly go through. You want to run around these areas wasting as much time as possible while your teammates do generators. The way you loop and when you do certain actions are completely depending on what map, where you are, and how things have generated around you. Once you have about 5,000 hours in the game, you know every little thing about these loops, all of their names and how the different killers interact with the loops. You're hoping to loop the killer for as long as possible. Remember, if you go down, it's completely fine. You're not supposed to be able to do this for the entire game. You get all that?
No.
You'll figure it out. When I got into my first ever chase, my first real chase, looping the killer around the map midwich against the good guy, I got a rush. I was running him around these areas. 1, 2, 3 generators popped before I went down. That's when I got hooked on the game. The slow build-up of adrenaline as you get the chase to go further and further and trying not to die as the killer slowly but surely makes distance towards you is addicting to me. I couldn't get enough of it, and I still get this feeling now. For my first 200 to 300 hours, I played mostly Survivor, and only really playing killer and custom games, and on rare occasions. I found the playstyle of Survivors more interesting and became used to it. I like the different builds you could come up with and the methods of playstyle, interacting with the killer in a multitude of ways. I used to think that playing killer would be boring. I don't have a team to work with, every match will feel the same mindset at the time, and I liked outplaying someone who is meant to be objectively better than me, as I see that as more skillful. That is until he got added. My first real chapter I was a part of. Most people were excited for the new Survivor because of her aesthetics and cool design. Some people were excited for the new map that would be released, being set in a movie theater. I, however, was excited for the killer, the unknown.
Was nervous tonight.
This killer is, in my opinion, the best addition to Dead by Daylight. There are objectively better things like balance changing, lice chapters, Nicolas fucking Cage, but I don't think they add as much impact on me as the Unknown did. Before he even released, I ignored buying survivors and grinded the iridescent shards to unlock him. Iridescent shards are unlocked by leveling up. It's one of the currencies used to buy characters and skins. And the moment he was released, I got him and started queuing. Loading in, I loved everything. Immediately. From his voice lines to his movements to his gameplay, it all clicked for me at the time. I felt like a real threat, and if it wasn't for the Unknown, I would have never played Killer as much as I do now. And I think I'm more of a Killer main nowadays anyways, for many reasons, but the Unknown was a huge part of it. His powers are very fun, and can cause some really unique and satisfying moments. The trick shots you can get with his UVX blast, pretending to be a hallucination, and that sweet, sweet teleport sound. It's invigorating, and I love it. Now, some of you may be asking, UVX blast, hallucinations, teleport? What? And to that I will say, fine, I'll explain the killer powers. Yes, and I mean all of them, and no, it won't take long. I'm pretty fast with this. Trapper can lay bear traps around the map for survivors to walk into, stopping them in their tracks. Wraith can go invisible, moving fast while invisible, but unable to hit survivors while invisible. Hillbilly has a chainsaw and can move around at ridiculous speeds. Chainsaw hits instantly down survivors. Nurse teleports. Fuck Nurse. Huntress throws hatchets at survivors from long range. The Shape stalks survivors so it can go from shit to powerful. Hag, she has traps she sets on the ground. When a trap is triggered, she can teleport to it. Doctor hits you with a static shock that stops you from vaulting or throwing pallets. Good luck reading his add-ons, I've yet to do so. Cannibal, fat man with the chainsaw that can insta-down multiple survivors at once with it. Also the dumbest players in the world. Nightmare places down snares or fake pallets. Snares slow you down and make you scream. Fake pallets break when thrown and don't stun the killer. These only work in the dream world. Entering the dream world just kinda happens, and exiting can happen from failing skill checks, being hooked, or interacting with the clocks dotted around the map. Pig has a dash, can sneak around by crouching, removing terror radius. When a survivor is down, she can place traps on their head. Those traps activate when a generator is complete. After some time, they instantly kill you. To remove them, interact with jigsaw boxes around the map. Clown, fat bastard with bottles, either slow survivors or speed himself and survivors. Spirit can phase at mad speeds, but can't see survivors whilst phasing. Legion. There's fucking 4 of them. They can become speedy by going into frenzy, and hitting you puts you into the deep wound, where you have to sit there mending yourself. The 5th hit of frenzy will down a survivor. Plague vomits on you. When fully infected, you are permanently injured. You can remove the infection by cleansing a water pools, but be careful because if you cleanse, the water becomes red. When she interacts with the red water, her vomit now just fucking damages you. Ghostface, a silly guy with a crouch. He stalks you until you can be insta down. To counter this, you can get him out by stop mode by staring at him. Demogorgon can teleport with portals and can launch himself large distances with shred. Also screams a lot. Oni, when you're injured, you drop Blood Ords. When he collects enough, he goes into Blood Fury. He can now dash at super speed and insta-down you. Deathslinger has a gun. Executioner. Executioner can hit you with long distance attack. Also leaves a trail when using his power. If a survivor hits the trail, they become tormented. When a survivor is tormented, they can be sent to the Cage of Atonement instead of hooked. Or they can just be straight up killed on death hook. Blight, pinball machine, bonks around the map at mad speed and smacks you while bonking. Twins, you release the baby, which can move around the map super fast and cling on to survivors. You can then chase them as the big one, or down them when the child is back off cooldown. Trickster throws knives at you. After enough knives, you get injured. You can also use main event, where he just starts blasting. Nemesis, big boy, has a whip. Tier 1 is shit, Tier 2 lets you break pallets, and Tier 3 increases range and movement speed whilst using the whip. When hit with the whip, survivors are infected, meaning they get injured by the next whip hit. Infections can be removed with antidotes dotted throughout the map. He also has zombies that wander around doing fuck all mostly. Cenobite,
I came.
launches an airstrike at you with chains. When chained, you are slow as shit and can't do some task. Has a box. If the box isn't worked on, Chain Hunt activates, where chains periodically smack you. Survivors doing the box can be teleported to. Artist launches burps at you. If hit from far away or through a wall, you are swarmed. You have to push the birds away. If hit a second time while swarmed, you'll be damaged. The birds will also just hurt you if you're close enough at launch. Onryo can teleport through TVs and go stealthy. Teleporting near survivors give them condemned stacks. When condemned is full, you can just kill them. Survivors remove condemned stacks by taking a tape from one TV and putting it into another. Dredge teleports to lockers. You can lock lockers, slowing him down. After a while, he activates Nightfall, where he teleports faster and is made aware when survivors are near the locker you're in. Also makes the map dark as shit. Mastermind, it's skin time. Can charge up a dash attack. He can do this twice. When grabbed with the charge, survivor becomes infected. Can remove same as Nemesis with antidotes. When fully infected, he can just pick you up no matter the health stat and you get a little bit slower. The Knight can summon one of 3 guards, all with different strengths of weaknesses. He can scroll through these guards by summoning one at a time to do his bidding. That'd be chasing a survivor, patrolling an area, or breaking shit. The Skull Merchant places drones down to track survivors. When a survivor has been scanned 3 times by a drone, they can't be healed on a perma track till they either go down or run out of the timer. Remember this one, she'll be important later. Singularity places camera downs around the map. When scanned on the camera, the survivor gets bald. This allows the Singularity to teleport to the survivor, making him break pallets and vault much faster for a short duration. Survivors have EMPs which remove the ball and deactivate cameras for a short time. Xenomorph can tunnel around the map at lightning speed, slowly gains crawler mode over time. This mode allows Xenomorph to use its tail attack at long range. It can be taken out of its crawler mode with the flame turrets collected by survivors. The Good Guy, a midget with a dash. He can enter stealth mode, which makes him really hard to see. Whilst in stealth mode, he can charge a dash. This dash can be extended by vaulting pallets or windows during the dash. Unknown can charge a blast that bounces once before exploding the ground. Survivors that get hit by this become weakened. A second hit causes injury. Staring at the unknown for long enough removes the effect. He can also leave hallucinations and teleport to them. Survivors can remove hallucinations at any time. The Lich. He's the most complicated. He has 4 spells: the ball, the hand, the fly, and the skeletons. The ball reveals survivors' locations if they enter it and deactivate their special items. The hand picks up or hold pallets. The fly lets him fly, and the skeletons are projectiles. Survivors' counter to this are special items around the map. You will randomly get an item that counters each one of his spells from the special chests. Finally, we have the Dark Lord. He has 3 forms: vampire form, wolf form, and bat form. Vampire form lets him shoot pillars of fire in front of him. Wolf form is slower but has better tracking and can pounce twice. Bat form makes everyone invisible but is super fast and can teleport to vaults within 32 meters. So yeah, that's all the killer's powers. Why did I explain this? For two reasons. One, because I wanted to, and two, to show the wide variety of playstyles the game goes for. Not every match can be simply boiled down to killer catched up, killer win, or killer didn't catch up, survivor win. The interactions you can have are amazing from map to map and kill to killer. Every match feels fresh because of this. My personal favourite killer to go against is the Shape, also known as Myers. Although his power is simple and overall pretty weak, it's fun to try and play around with line of sight and bait him into going into tier 3 too early. It's also fun because there is nothing more terrifying in this game playing solo queue and hearing this sound. It is terrifying for many reasons. For starters, you have no idea what his add-ons are. Myers' add-ons change his playstyle completely, but I'll explain that in a minute. Until you know what add-ons he has, you are shitting yourself for that entire game, praying that he is just a default Myers and not Tombstone. That sound effect is also terrifying because for the most part, you almost have no idea if it's you being stalked. Because outside of a 16-meter radius, you can't hear his terror radius in tier 2 because of how small it is. You have no idea if you're feeding him his power or not, and it puts you into a panic state of, do I leave my objective to see if the masked one follows me, or do I stay and risk getting instantly killed? I have balls of steel and always choose to stay. I should have left. But this isn't the only reason I like going against Myers. Another reason is his add-ons. Add-ons for killers, as stated before, amplify current abilities of killer or make them worse. The meme add-ons. But Myers' add-ons are a bit different. Sure, he has the ones that improve his stalking, like Judith's Journal, increasing his stalk rate on survivors, or the hair add-ons, increasing his duration of tier 3. But there's two types of add-ons he has that completely change how he works. The mirror add-ons and the tombstone add-ons. I'll start with the Tombstone add-ons because they're easy to explain. He has two add-ons, Tombstone Peace and Judith's Tombstone. These add-ons make it so getting to tier 3 takes a lot longer, up to 200% longer. The reason? Both of these add-ons allow you to just straight up kill a survivor. Like, no matter how many hooks. Their health stage, gem progression, doesn't matter. If they are close enough, you can kill them. It literally means press M1 to kill. There are downsides to this though. For starters, with Tombstone Peace, it makes you go back to tier 2 after use. Meaning if you get your stalking management all wrong, then your tier 3 is used up completely by 1 or 2 kills. Another issue is getting the timing wrong. You have to be so close to survivors and it's pretty common for it to turn into a swing because of lag or something stupid. Judith's Tombstone also has its own problems. As previously mentioned for Tombstone Peace, you can miss the kill and swing. Luckily though, Judith's Tombstone allows for you to keep the tier 3 after a kill, but it makes you 9% slower than normal. If you mix this add-on with the hair add-on, which makes your tier 3 infinite, you can just walk around killing everyone without a care in the world. However, be careful, as the main counter to Tombstone is lockers. If you hop in a locker, it means you cannot be killed. The killer will just pick you up out of the locker and have to drop you or take you to a hook, postponing the death. His other add-ons that change your style are mirror add-ons. There is Scratched Mirror and Vanity Mirror. Scratched Mirror is the fun one. You cannot get out of tier 1. Permanently locked at super slow speed with no terror radius. The upside? Well, instead of stalking survivors to gain tiers, your stalk function turns into wall hacks. You gain fucking wall hacks for a 32-meter range. You'd expect this to be overpowered, but it's not. At least, not unless you have the right perk combination, but I'll get to that. Scratched Mirror is the closest the game gets to a horror game in my opinion. You get the jump scares, the unnerving character, and the intense build-up you feel throughout the match, hoping every turn you make doesn't cause you to instantly run into him. And then there's Vanity Mirror. It's shit. It does the same thing as Scratch Mirror, but works on tier 2 instead and gives you a 16-meter radius of wall hacks, so your tier 2 terror radius range. Again, with the right perk build, it can be good, but it's mostly pointless if I'm being totally honest. I don't even have that much fun using it, and I have yet to see a single Myers use it. Not even once. I explained all this to show that even a killer with such a simple power can have a wide variety of playstyles, keeping the game fresh. It also shows that developers, at some point, were pretty competent and understood how to make the game feel fun and interesting with every match. Now, would you be surprised if I told you that Myers is one of the weakest kills in the game? Yes, the insta-killer is one of the worst. That makes total fucking sense. Now, I went on this massive rant about Myers, like fucking hell, I've spoke for so long about a single aspect of the game. So I think it's time to move on to something a bit more universal. The terror radius. Now, throughout the video, you've heard me mention a thing called the terror radius. I skimmed over it before because I wanted to touch on it later, and now that time has come. What is a terror radius? How do they work and what do they do? Well, your terror radius is a certain area around you that all survivors can hear you in, through the heartbeat and the music. The heartbeat gets more intense and the music gets many more layers the closer you get to the survivor. Your average terror radius is 32 meters, with some killers having more or less depending on scenarios, like Wesker being 40, Sadako's being 24, Myers having it as 16 in tier 2, Ghostface removing his completely. You get the idea. This is usually a good indicator of how close the killer is to you, and can be used tactically to leave your area just in time to reach the vault or pallet so the killer doesn't get to you. Or you can be that guy and at the whiff of a terror radius, you run off and hide like a little bitch. Now, depending on what killer it is, you want to run away at different times, because some killers might be slow as shit and you can run away from their no speed ass, or you might want to run away quickly because it's a ranged killer or a charged killer that will just fuck your shit up from long distance. The coolest part of the terror radius is that every killer has their own unique music for the most part, really playing into the character's horror and backstory, like how Chucky's theme has the childlike randomness to his closer sounds, the way Deathslingers feels like a slow build up to a standoff, or how the Unknown sounds grotesque and unsettling, and so on and so forth. I don't have time to rank which terror radius and chase music I like, Nemo, Pyramid Head Slinger, but I could go on for hours about how some of them fit the characters perfectly. Does this mean I like every terror radius? No, some I hate, like the nurse's theme. It doesn't really suit her character or her lore like the others, and it feels just kind of generic and bland, to the point where I thought it was literally one of the default terror radius music. Overall, the terror radius is a good way of expressing horror and character through sound design, although the developers never actually intended for this to be the main way of knowing a killer's distance from you. They used to have an idea where if the killer gets closer, the fog speaks to you, writing messages on the walls, an object saying closer, run this way, becoming more visible and consistent the closer the killer got. Now, I don't think this would work in modern Dead by Daylight, but that's actually such a cool concept, and I want to see a horror game similar to DBD do a mechanic like that. Every character in the game has 3 unique perks called Teachables. These teachable perks vary wildly in functionality and can be put onto any survivor or killer side respectively. You just need to level up the character enough to prestige them at least once. And now those perks are on everyone. There are so many perks I have yet to use them all in public matches, at least on the survivor side. For killer, I have used them all. These perks allow for you to change your playstyle completely for both sides, or amplify your current ability of the killer you're playing. I'll give you an example for each side. For survivor side, let's say you want to sneak around and hide from the killer whenever possible. Well, there are perks to help with that. A very common build for this task is Distortion, Calm Spirit, Lucky Break, and Low Profile. This build makes it so you rarely get seen by the killer's aura reading perks. They can't make you scream at all, and it hides your blood and scratch marks when hit. You want to get the generators done really fast? Well, you have the Generator Rush builds. These builds consist of items and perks to make the generators take less time to do. The most common perk build for this is Deja Vu, Prove Thyself, Stakeout, and Hyper Focus. Deja Vu lets you do the 3 closest generators 6% faster, Prove Thyself makes you do gens faster when people are nearby, Stakeout lets your good skill checks be counted as great skill checks, and Hyper Focus makes great skill checks better than the more you hit in a row. Or maybe you just want a build where you just fucking scream all the time. Yes, that exists. Yes, there are perks to do that. Say hello to the Screaming Steve. For the killer side, there's a bit more variety in build types. Sure, there's overall less perks because it complements that specific killer. It can be super powerful to make these builds work around the killer power. Let's take the Cannibal for example, also known as a Bubba. Do you want to build specifically for making Bubba's chainsaw much stronger? Well, put on 2 haste perks, Infectious Fright and Forced Hesitation with the Iridescent Meat add-on. Survivors nearby will scream and become slowed for each down, and the chainsaw charges reset every down thanks to the add-on. Do you want to defend your basement? Insidious, Iron Grasp, Agitation are your perks, allowing you to get to the basement faster and hiding your terror radius. What about stopping people from escaping the chainsaw sweeps? Try Bamboozle, Blood Favor, Superior Anatomy, and Unbound. You stop people from vaulting over a vault. Vaulting is much faster, giving you haste after the vault, then blocking pallets if anyone takes an injury. And these are builds just on Bubba. Sure, they can be used on many different killers, but they complement specific killers more than the rest. This allows for the killers to try out things that may counter issues you are having when going against survivors, or making your killer's power stronger with these builds. Now, of course, there are objectively the best builds, both for survivor and killer, but you rarely come across these builds. Mostly. And the variety you get is insanely fun to go against. My favorite types of perks though are Hex and Boon perks, since it's a second objective to do. Hex and Boons work roughly the same. Around the map there are 5 totems. These totems are dull, they have no effect, but if you run a Hex or a Boon perk, they become lit and give buffs to their side. Hex perks help the killer in many ways, such as Blood Favor, which blocks pallets when hitting a survivor for 30 seconds, or Hex Ruin, that makes generators regress when not being worked on. Boon totems help the survivor. You can interact back with a totem to bless it. The buffs vary from Boon Dark Theory's 2% haste to Circle of Healing's extra healing speed. This effect is only in a 24-meter radius for boons. Killers can remove boons by finding them and snuffing them, and hexes can be cleansed by destroying them. This is a fun side objective to do, although it can get boring at times screaming down the mic, "Where the fuck is the totem?" and it was in the most obvious spot. Another thing you might have noticed throughout the video is me mentioning some horror icons, like Michael Myers and Wesker. This is because the game is known for being a horror hall of fame when it comes to gaming. They've almost every IP under the sun, including Five Nights at fucking Freddy. Over the years, its collection of IPs has grown larger and larger to the point where, if it's a horror thing, they've probably got it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Yep, they have Bubba. Child's Play? They have him and he doesn't shut up. Scream? Yep, they have Ghostface. Well, not Scream Ghostface, but the Scream Ghostface is a skin. Nightmare on Elm Street? Yep, they have that, just not the good one. And so on and so forth. A lot of the things they own make sense, such as what I've listed. But then they have some more interesting choices, like you can play with a Slipknot mask, or as the Eddie variants from Iron Maiden, or Nicolas fucking Cage. Needless to say, there is a wide variation of IPs and characters you can play as, from the expected to the unexpected, and it's quite cool to see. There are some licenses people have been begging for and we still haven't got, such as the Predator, but we'll get to that one. Or Vecna from Stranger Things, even though we have Vecna from Dungeons & Dragons, and he's arguably cooler. There are some characters I wish were in the game, like the Slender Man, or the Terrifier, or my gambling addiction. All would work well. We just haven't got them yet, and probably never will for a lot of it. Which is why we must, as a community, band together and say thank you, Behavior, for giving us the licenses we currently have. We appreciate them all, and we never argue about it. Speaking of the community of Dead by Daylight is very nice overall. There's a lot of different sections to the community and what they like to talk about and specialize in, which is great. It's always good to see a wide variety of interests to do with a single game. You could talk to anyone about anything and they're usually pretty friendly, and you can discuss literally anything and have a nice time. There are many things I don't like, but I'll save that for the complaining half of the video. One section of the community I really like are the YouTubers, and the wide variety of video types that are made. Do you want to watch someone who knows every detail about the game? There's Oddstava.
You literally are a communist.
You want to watch someone that sounds like they're constantly narrating and shouting? Spooky Loops. A British man obsessed with holes? JRM. A British man obsessed with unique pathing? Aaron. A British man obsessed with DVD history? Arditha. Why are there so many British male YouTubers who play Dead by Daylight? There's also fucking Slate who's British as well, and now there's technically me. British have colonized Dead by Daylight. We've got this lad's colonized the lesbians. Not only is the community very friendly, everyone seems to know each other. Like, not even in the, oh, these 5 people collab with each other. No, everyone knows everyone, and it's really cool to see the variety of interactions. That be with YouTubers, with the Twitch streamers, or even arguing on Twitter that happens every 2 seconds, but we'll get to the complaining section. That starts now. I spent the last, 10 years, or 54 minutes of unedited talking, kissing this game's ass, talking about why I like it and why it's great. So you may be wondering still, why is this the worst game you've probably played? Well, let's get into that now. I'll start off with all the patches and why they sucked. Dead by Daylight was released a long time ago, June 14th, 2016 to be precise. It was meant to be a small game to play with friends, but then it became the behemoth that it is because of my boy Myers. They got a licensed chapter so early on, and it was a huge one. The announcement skyrocketing Dead by Daylight into fame. However, this meant that they had to balance the game a bit more, as there were people complaining about balance of the game. This happens with every game, so what makes this different to others? Well, the game was incredibly survivor-sided. Like, unbelievably survivor-sided. People think the game is unbalanced now. Nope. Back then, some killers were much stronger, like the Nurse. Nurse nowadays can teleport 2 times, with a maximum of 3 with add-ons. On release, she could get 7. 7 teleports. Sound overpowered, right? That's because it is. However, survivors had methods to stop the Nurse from being strong, and stop almost any killer from having a chance of winning, that being the Toolbox add-on, a brand new part. Modern version of this removes a couple of charges from the generator, making it go a bit faster, but back then it completed the generator. No, there were no drawbacks, it just completed a generator. 4 survivors bring that and boom, you got 1 gen left to do and then power the exit gate and leave. Or, all 4 of you go for hatch. The modern hatch spawns when there's 1 survivor left, no matter the gen progression. When closed, the exit gates become powered and the endgame timer starts. Pretty simple and fair. Old hatch? Not quite. Depending on how many generators were done, compared to survivors alive, you needed 1 more number of generators completed than you had survivors alive. Then it just spawned. It was close, so you had to open it with a key, but still, a killer can just get robbed of any kills. Furthermore, if the killer was chasing a survivor, the others could just escape at any time as long as the gen amount was right. It was stupid. This also led to another issue, which was the hatch standoff, but that's something entirely separate. Oh, and did I mention that none of this mattered because with the right perks, you could out-heal a killer's swinging speed? Render every insta-down completely useless? Yeah, you could do that. Now, why did I bring this up? This is all redundant now because it was in an older patch, wasn't it? Well, yes, but there's one detail I've yet to share. How long it took to fix these issues. The brand new part took more than a year to be changed. The hat changes came out after 3 years, and Nurse having 7 blinks, also 3 years to change. These were things the community would bring up a lot, and it took a long time to change. There were so many examples of this, so why don't we do another quick fire round of changes that took too long to come out? This'll be fun. Hex Ruin used to make normal skill checks regress the gen, and great skill checks have no bonus. After 1 year, it got reworked to regressing the gens that aren't being worked on. Object of Obsession used to make it so you could see the killer's aura outside of terror radius. Use this with at least one friend and you can see where the killer is at all time. Or use it to say hi to seeing Freddy everywhere. It took 5 years to change this to making it so every time the killer sees your aura, you see theirs, with the downside of revealing your aura to the killer every 30 seconds. Flashlights. Fuck you if you have epilepsy during this time, because flashlights could be spammed, insta-blind, and were a lot brighter. It took a few patches for all of this to change, but over the course of 6 years, it got to how it is now. The last major update for the flashlight removed the epilepsy spamming. So yeah, 6 years of seizures, I guess. Decisive Strike. When the killer picks you up, you could break free if you hit a skill check and stun them for 5 seconds. That's it, no drawbacks whatsoever. Nowadays, it's a 4-second stun only active after an unhook for 60 seconds, and you can't touch generators, heal, or do basically anything, otherwise it deactivates. This perk is still being fucked with nowadays, but it got its main changes after 3 years. Add-on, Iridescent Head. You could insta-down survivors with the Huntress hatchets, reduce your total of hatchets by 2. At this time, they meant 3 hatches of an insta-down. So, have the extra hatchets add-on and boom, you're strong as shit. It took 4 years until it got changed to making it 1 hatchet maximum. The Knight, he has been glitched since released. Whilst patrolling, you can get stunned by pallets, which stuns the Knights and ends patrol. Now, this isn't intentional. This is a bug yet to be changed. And finally, the last one I'll talk about, because there's a lot more. The one that broke people and made many people quit the game. Welcome to the rant about Old Skull Merchant. The Skull Merchant was released to Dead by Daylight with an overwhelmingly negative response. There were few teasers leading up to her eventual release, and people were expecting a sci-fi design, some cool futuristic robot or some grotesque creature. Instead, we got a woman with a mask. Very scary. Her lore is that she's a billionaire and hunts people for fun, which is actually kind of cool, not gonna lie. Now, before I get into her gameplay, I will say what most of the community said when they first saw her. Is that the Predator? There's no denying she took heavy inspiration off of the Predator. To the weapon, to the skull collecting, it was to the point where people believe Behavior actually acquired the Predator license at some point, but lost it at the last minute. A similar thing has happened in the past. Bubba was meant to have a survivor on a map but got rushed out, so he came to the realm alone. So, Skull Merchant was already in hot water because of her Predator design. But does her gameplay save her from scrutiny? Oh, you sweet summer child, this is Behavior Dead by Daylight we're talking about. Of course it was shit. She had her drones like she does now, but they worked differently. Back then, the drones had modes, active and scouting. Active mode would start scanning survivors. Once fully scanned, they would be exposed for 60 seconds, and the Skull Merchant is undetectable in an active drone. When drones don't see anyone, they go into scouting mode, which looks like how it does nowadays. When they detect a survivor, the drone goes into active mode. The survivor can turn off a drone in scouting mode. If successful, the survivor gets claw trapped, so the merchant can see them on the radar. Entering active drones resets the claw trap timer. That was Old Skull Merchant. If you can't see the issues, you're blind, like Behavior with balance changes, but that's for later. The idea of a killer that tracks your location is pretty interesting and can work well if done correctly. It was not done correctly. This quickly led to the 3-gen meta. You're playing Skull Merchant. You analyze the map and see the 3 closest generators to each other. You place your drones down. You have gen regression perks. You win. No, I'm not kidding. It was practically impossible for coordinated survivors to do anything. She would kick away any progress, maybe hit a survivor, rarely down them, then walk away until the server disconnects, which takes an hour. If the server disconnects, it's automatically a killer win. This playstyle caused many things to happen, such as gem regression perks like Call of Brian getting gutted, Skull Merchant player's ego being larger than Ellen DeGeneres', and this ego caused a fight between Chessmaster and a comp team. The competitive team were able to beat the guy who said that playing Skull Merchant is like playing chess. And then they responded with checkmate. Hardest line in anime history, let me tell you. Imagine Sukuna saying that. Checkmate. All of this caused a lot of players to cry out, DCing at any Skull Merchant they see, quitting the game, shouting slurs on Twitter, the lot. Behavior's reaction to this was to nerf the pig. I'm kidding, of course. They decided to wait a while before giving her an extensive rework to where she is just slightly annoying to go against, but much better than before. To help combat the 3-gen issue, later they added a limit to gen regression. Overall, behavior fucked around, and they found out, and we will never repeat those mistakes again. But for real this time, they haven't touched her kit heavily since and probably never will. Oh, the 9.3.3 changes. Let's have a look. What the fuck? They made her unbearably awful, but I'm getting ahead of myself and I'm hoping it doesn't get added and stays in the test build. Oh yeah, the test builds and how the devs are incompetent. So before an update goes live in Dead by Daylight, it goes through the PTB, the public test beta, where they go to show what they want to do with perks, killer maps, add-ons, whatever the fuck. 9 times out of 10, they are absolute wank. Don't get me wrong, there are the cool ones, aka the ones where they add a new character or a new map. But the balance change ones are usually really, really bad. I'll take a recent one, the Twins PTB. Recently, the Twins was going to get a rework to her power, making her go from kinda weak to a bit stronger. We expected some quality of life changes, because overall, the Twins isn't unfun to play. She's just a bit clunky, so let's go and see what they did. So, they made the cooldown from switching between Victor and Charlotte shorter. Pretty nice. They changed the animation shorter and a few add-on changes. Pretty good, pretty good. Then they made Victor be able to hit a survivor, then down the survivor. Wait, what? They made it so instead of latching onto healthy survivors and downing injured survivors, they made him injure healthy survivors and latch on to injured survivors. Needless to say, the Twins change was so despised that only the quality of life stuff was added. I'm sure this is only a one-time thing, right? Nope, happens all the time. 4.1.0 nerfed Billy by giving him an overheat mechanic and nerfing his add-ons. No one asked for this. Literally no one. Billy has always been seen as a well-designed killer. Then they butchered him because they felt like it. Took years to get changed as well. It feels like they won't fucking listen half the time. There was also the latest PTB, 9.3.3. Not only did Skull Merchant get butchered, making her drones weaker than ever, and all of her buffs she gets from scanning much weaker, they also did many perk changes, like Corrective Action. A perk that is rarely used, like literally no one uses it, and only useful for your new player friends. If someone else misses a skill check, Corrective Action will take a stack and count it as a good skill check. You can gain stacks by hitting great skill checks. In the PTB, they change it from becomes a good skill check to a great skill check. Run that with Hyper Focus, a perk that buffs your gen speed the more greats you hit in a row and you're unstoppable. 2 people with that on can get a gen done in like 30 seconds. 30-second generators, and you can literally AFK. You can be watching this video right now and pop a gen without touching your keyboard. Do the developers test these things? I don't think so. There's a meme in the community, well, a lot, but one of the memes is the developers don't playtest. And it's starting to go from a meme to reality. It feels like they think of a cool idea, and instead of testing anything that can be paired with it, they just go, yep. Sounds cool. I get that there are a lot of perks in Dead by Daylight, and there are only so many playtesters, but so many things just slip through, and it's weird how common it is to happen. This is the thing about the PTBs. The community can simply read the patch notes and go, yep, I can pair this with this, that, and the other and get major cool things, but the developers that code this shit don't see it. Now, I don't want to have too much of a go at the actual game designers and developers, because at the end of the day, they're just doing their job. And one of them would never say something controversial in the community to divide the people.
Skilled play leads to wins. If they don't, are they really skilled plays?
Oh, never mind. I won't go too much into detail about the specific clip I just showed you. If you want a good video on that, I'll leave a link to Coconut RTS's video, which you can watch after you're done with this one. After this one. But in short, a developer of the game said, kills is what we determine as skill, which is a hot topic in the game. My personal standpoint is that kills don't equal skill. So I can load up a game of an S-tier killer with aura reading, knockout, and deerstalker and kill 4 survivors in about 40 seconds. And so can a lot of people. So if skill isn't equal to kills, then what is? Personally, I think skill is a mix between gen pressure, hook stages, chase times, basically a lot of factors that you can't really quantify in a simple statement. But the developers, no idea. We never really get a good gauge about what the devs think about anything. All we can do is guess about what they're thinking. But what I do know is there ain't much going up in their logic department, and there is evidence to show the developers are very, very, very hit or miss, with more misses than hits, with what they do to changes like skill expression, and what they decide are healthy changes. They do some good things, like nerfing Dead Hard and making some maps look more appealing, some map bounce changes, etc. But there are so many times where they just don't think, and just read the top comments and go, we balance the singular comment, or the kill rate is too high. But the kill rate is usually high because of disconnects. That's why Skull Merchant's at 71% and, you know, they're reworking it. But anyways, that's besides the point. I'll take Freddy for an example on the comments. When he was released, he was the weakest killer in the game. It took 8 seconds just to be able to hit a single survivor, and survivors could wake themselves up almost any time. It was horrible. So the developers nerfed Freddy. Yes, they nerfed him, because players that didn't read his power and didn't understand said it was OP. So the small group of people that cried got it to be nerfed, making Freddy even worse. And nowadays, the community have repeated this with Skull Merchant. I know too many people that skip every game with Skull Merchant and have no idea how she worked, even though she got changed months ago. This all ties back to her being gutted. The reason she was nerfed is because her kill rate was super high. Why though? She's B tier at best, no? Well, yes, but remember, people disconnected against her. So her kill rate was inflated by people that just left and died on hook or disconnected. So instead of giving her a rework to make her more engaging, they just made her more useless, which doesn't stop people from disconnecting. They'll still see the curvy woman and leave immediately, even if they did make her engaging. Her name is completely shattered with her reputation. It is a nightmare. I'm not talking about Freddy. As you can probably guess, I don't particularly like the developers of the game. They focus too much on random things that nobody asked for, rather than changes that would be beneficial for the game's longevity. I know the game is 8 years old now, so longevity is hitting the ending point, but the game is still incredibly popular and has a very good sized player base. Try keeping them instead of pushing them away. Every patch, there is something added that we don't want. No one asked for Billy Overheat, but they added it anyways. No one asked for Huntress Boss, but they added it anyway. No one is asking for you to change the Mori system. Please stop trying. They seem to have no direction on where they want the game to be at and how they want it to be balanced. A good way of balancing the game is making most things equal, with a couple of weaker or stronger options. But every patch changes the meta, shaking things up once in a while. These changes to the meta rarely happen, or happen by accident, or they even make the meta much harder to use on one side, such as the meta perks being gen regression and gen speed perks, right? Yes and no. No matter what, gen regression will always be some of the best perks. Same with gen slowdown perks. They're some of the most used perks on the killer side and some of the most annoying to verse, but there is an upside. The killer must do something to get the perk to activate. Surge needs to down a survivor and be within 32 meters of a gen. Pop goes the weasel. You have to hook a survivor and then you have 60 seconds to use it. Pain resonance, you have to hook a survivor on specific hooks called scourge hooks, which is complete RNG and you can get 4 in a bad spot, but that's beside the point. Wait, no, that's not beside the point. That actually, adds to the randomness and makes it a lot more... I'm not writing that in. I can't be asked. Now, survivors have perks to speed up the generators to make it fair, but there is a key difference. A lot of them have no requirements or very minuscule requirements. Examples being, prove thyself. Get a 10% bonus per survivor working on a single gen. This buff is given to you and any teammate on the generator. You already do the generators really fast with multiple people, so making it even faster is cool. Deja vu, the 3 closest gens are shown to you at all time. You do these gens 6% faster. This helps with making sure you don't leave the last 3 generators, the ones right next to each other, but also makes gens faster. Toolboxes, although not a perk, it's something everyone has. Makes the generators faster and can be improved with add-ons. You can start to see the issue, can't you? The survivors get perks that have no requirements that help them do the generators faster, but the killers need to have done something most of the time to activate their gen slowdown perks. Furthermore, there are some perks that reward the survivors for the killer doing something good, like fast track or alert. Same for the killer side though, with perks active when survivors do their objective, like machine learning or deadlock, so that's fair. But anyways, why am I talking about these perks now of all times? I'm near the end of the video and you're probably not paying attention watching this on a second monitor. Stop paying attention, you little bitch. Well, the game has an MMR system, like most do. The higher you get, the higher chance of seeing the meta perks rise. Now, is this a problem? No, not at all. It makes sense. The issue is that meta perks being nerfed on one side, but not the other. For most killers in the game, the best perks are gen regression and slowdown, like I said before. But they all got nerfed into oblivion, from 30% of generators to 20%, lower lock times, and a few more. This is because they were the most picked perks in the game, especially at higher levels. Did they do the same for the survivor side? No, not at all. In some cases, they got buffed, like Iron Will. But why? Well, because the community are bitching and complaining about gen regression perks being too strong. In actuality, they're just annoying to go against. Take Pain Resonance, for example. When used, it removed 33% of the gen with the highest progression, which is pretty strong. But sometimes you won't even be able to use it because the hooks are too far away, or because by the time you get to use it on an effective degree, 2 gens just completed, so it barely does anything to the gen that's on 5%. Overall, it's pretty balanced, but got nerfed to 25%, and every other one got nerfed as well. The perks themselves didn't need nerfing, but because Survivor mains complained, they got nerfed. Which leads me to my next section. Finally, the community has its horrible, angry side to it, where people are constantly at each other's throats over opinions to the point of death threats. I could state an opinion And a picture of my house would be in the comments because SableLover27 disagreed with me saying Sable is overrated. Or I could say that I think Hattie deserves to have no skins because she's not popular enough to have skins, and then I would be assassinated 2 days later. That's the main thing I don't like about the community. Like with every game, there are popular characters, like Overwatch, you have Mercy, Reinhardt, and Lucio. In DBD, the main three are Sable Ward, Feng Min, and Kate Denson. Those are the ones I see most and some of the highest chosen characters. And there's nothing wrong with this. I'm a basic bitch myself. I use Yui, she's like the 4th most used. But because they're popular, you get people that hate them for solely being popular and for no other reason. Sable is the most popular yet most hated character I've ever seen, and it comes down to her being popular for the most part. People also hate her players because she brought in a lot of newer players, and because newer players aren't as good, they get shouted at a lot for not playing perfectly. Personally, I don't like Sable. Not for anything to do with her players or popularity, I don't care for that, but because I don't like how she seems shoehorned into the lore side of things. Her backstory is practically just, I was the weird kid until Michaela Reed, who's another character. Sable contradicts a bit of Michaela's lore. Like, Michaela never mentions Sable, but she mentions her roommate a lot. But then Sable is like only talking about Michaela, like they're best friends and they always hang out with each other. It doesn't make sense to me. And her whole thing is that she's a bit strange. I think it's a bit lazy and a bit random. Also, she's been described as not being goth or alt, but her design is inherently gothic and alt, at least in my eyes. She feels like she was designed solely because they wanted to make more money and that there wasn't much thought put into her. But it worked, because she brought so many players to the game and they kept throwing skins at her left and right. Again, nothing wrong with this. Popular characters get cosmetics. It's natural. The thing I don't like is something I don't like about many cosmetics. As cool as they are, they don't fit the theme of Dead by Daylight. It's meant to be this horror game that's dark and gritty where you're trying to survive these monsters beyond comprehension. It's meant to scare you. But I'm running around in a swimsuit, running around with big glowy tails or in cosplays. Slowly, they have been losing the horror aspect of the game and lead more into le funny, quirky colors. And I'm not the biggest fan of it. Are the skins cool? Yes, I personally use the tail one on Yui because it's a cool design. But does it fit the theme? No, not at all. But that doesn't matter much to me. As long as you find enjoyment out of something, then there's nothing wrong with it. As long as it's not pay to win skins, am I right? There's pay to win, isn't there? Okay, so there have been some cases of pay to win in the game. Not a lot, but definitely a few. There are cases of skins being a little pay to win at times, such as the Were-Elk skin for the Huntress. When it first came out, the lullaby was incredibly quiet, to the point where he could be up your arse and it sounds like he's across the map. It made playing against the Were-Elk disorientating, if not scarier, because he could just pop out of nowhere and spook you. Another issue was the wind-up sound being really quiet as well. This sound is used on Huntress so you can know when to dodge and crouch, helping knowing what she's gonna do when she is out of your line of sight. For Were-Elk, this was damn near impossible to hear, and it made it hard to counterplay. This did get changed eventually, luckily, but for a while, he was the only Huntress skin I saw because of this advantage. People were paying like 20 quid to use it to be at an advantage. It was a bit absurd. This is the only thing I can think of that was true pay to win, other than some perks being behind licensed killers and survivors. Wait a minute. Now, I'm fortunate enough to not have this issue though. I've bought every licensed DLC because I have a lack of money preservation skills. I literally own 13 fucking sushi cats. But to those that haven't bought every DLC on release day, what if they want to try out some perks they can't use? Do they have a fix for that? Yes, but it's not the best solution. They have the Shrine, where you can buy perks with iridescent shards so you don't have to buy the character. Pretty cool, right? Well, sort of. The Shrine gives you 2 perks from each side every week, sometimes more often depending on the events, but in general, 4 perks per week. There are 270 perks in Dead by Daylight. So if we do the math, 270 divided by 4, that's roughly 67.5 weeks. It takes a year to get all the perks through the Shrine, and that's not including perks that are being added with new characters once every few months. So this sort of encourages people to buy the characters for the perks. It's what I did. I wanted Vigil and Fixated, so I bought Quentin and Nancy because I wasn't waiting for RNG to take my side on the Shrine. I've spent more money than I'm willing to admit on the game, about 150 quid. That's not even including the game itself, that's just on DLC and skins and Battle Pass. Did I mention it had a Battle Pass? I don't think I did. Okay, I'll do that now. It's one of the few times though, so the Battle Pass is worth the money in my opinion. The skins are 9 out of 10, they're phenomenal, and it costs only like £10, so it's not egregious. However, I do have an issue with it, but the issue isn't the Battle Pass or the skins being somewhat expensive outside of that. I think for a £30 game, with merchandise, spin-off games, and much more monetization, the game should lower the price of skins by a small margin. Not a lot, but a little bit, because it's insane the amount of money they rack in. I want to know where this money is going, because the monetization system is just so similar to a game like Fortnite that's free to play, but the game is £30. It doesn't make sense. They fired half the fucking staff, so the money ain't going there, and the game is glitchy as shit. And they won't fix the issues that get caused by the glitches, which will be my final talking point, because I've yapped for too long. This game is 8 years old. It has had so much time to brew and become well balanced. Still sort of isn't, but at least not glitchy, right? You're probably sick of the sarcastic remarks, of course it's glitchy. Dead by Daylight is known for being a buggy mess. Now, it's not uncommon for glitches to be found in games, hell, it's expected, but DBD has so many over the years, and it's absurd, and it's because of the code. It's been stated multiple times that the code is very spaghetti and not very well made, like it was never meant to be this big of a game, because it wasn't. This can lead to issues that no one would ever think of, like the recent Decisive Strike bug. Every killer had a different stun time. I'm not kidding. What was meant to be a 4-second stun was only 2.5 seconds for some killers like Myers, all the way up to 5.9 for Skull Merchant. 6 seconds! I genuinely want to know why this happened, or how this happened. Where in the code does it make the stun times different? It should be a simple if stun play animation, 4-second duration. I get that it's coding, and that one thing might be affecting it that has nothing to do with the code. I get it. I've done game design at college. I know how much of a nightmare coding can be, and I did it at a very rudimentary level. Literally, basically just complicated Scratch. But like, how? How did you manage that? It's all random times. How does that work? There's so many issues like this as well, like the vaults just not working on Forgotten Runes, or Sadako just disappearing after using Nowhere to Hide, or even fucking killers dropping their power. Yes, they could drop their power. You could literally drop your chainsaw as Billy. What they need to do to have these issues become less common and easier to fix is have a 3-month time of no changes. Nothing. Put the game in a state where it's pretty balanced and fine and could sit for a bit. Just work on fixing the code. This can make it so much easier to start adding things and fixing things that go wrong in the future. But they never will, because it does not give the higher-ups money because they want money right this second. Like every company, it gets fucked over by the guys at the top. Why do you think they unkill Switch Trickster even though he currently has a bug that literally causes epilepsy? Because he has skins that need to be sold, behavior. They need to be sold now. We want money. So, what is my conclusion on Dead by Daylight? Is it a masterpiece? Not by any means. Is it a buggy mess? Absolutely, it's a ball ache at times. Is the community a bit of an arse? Like all of them? Yeah, there are the bad eggs. Would I recommend you play the game if you haven't already? Absolutely. There is no game like Dead by Daylight. It truly is just a fluke in gaming. It's a game that shouldn't have worked, but because of one lucky moment, it became a monolith in the gaming community. Behavior have shown time and time again they can't make other succeeding games, with the exception of Meet Your Maker. Every other game they have tried making has either mixed reviews or been cancelled. They try so hard, but it never works because Behavior are, at the end of the day, not the best game designers, and are leaning onto their one IP as their crutch for making other games. I mean, fuck me, the last 3 games have been DBD spin-offs. Casting of Frank Stone, Into the Fog, and Project T, which was cancelled. Project T was cancelled. I was excited for that, but even with all that, I would still implore you to play the game. It's fun to play. It's even more so with friends. There's funny moments to have. The community's overall really positive about things, and that's something I'm willing to stand by. So join the fog, and enjoy your time in the realm.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
I burst him again.
Wait, what does the blind look like? Oh. That's it? That's so fucking quiet.
No, you're not. Help, Jason! Fuck!
Fuck off, me and Faceless.
Huh?
Faceless just assaulted the Demogorgon and the Demogorgon has no idea of it.
You can't kick that, mate. He has nowhere to go. I whiffed it twice. 3 times! There we go.
Yep.
What the fuck?
Oh, you fucked that up. Whoop, 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 you fucked it up. I wasn't close enough for that. She doesn't. What the fuck is the moonwalk?
I couldn't pick. I just couldn't pick her up. I can't seem to pick her up.
You're invisible.
Oh shit, yeah.
Come on.
Wow. Just wow.
I hate this game.
You played yourself.
Oh! What? That's bullshit. What the fuck?
Be my palette. Probably on the worst one now that I think about it, but oh well.
Don't do that. I fucking hit the wall anyway.
Welcome to the unscripted outro. Thanks for watching. If you're still here, one, why? And two, well, just thank you for sticking around. It's a long ass video. I don't know, 90% if you clicked off after the first minute after you heard my voice. Yeah, this was a fun video to make. It took a long time, mostly just because I'm a lazy bastard, but also because making long form's a lot harder than I thought. Like, I've made a bunch of scripts before, like I made one for the Mario movie, and I started working on one for Jujutsu Kaisen, and I'm halfway through with another one that I might scrap, but yeah, making a script that sounds good and, you know, conveys your points quite difficult, so yeah. But don't worry, the next video will not take as long, I hope, and it will be longer because it's on a series on Disney Plus, so I might get copyright striked, but worth. But yeah, hopefully I can get that out within 2025 because I want to at least get 2, maybe 3 videos out in 2025 instead of 1 video in 2 years like I've just done. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. I mean, if you're still here, you either enjoyed it or you put it on your second screen and forgot about it. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next one.